Okay, let's make a start. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining our FDA webinar today on accessing the halal market. For this webinar, we're joined by FDA service provider Halal Certification Europe, and Mohammed and Ferdo are going to present to us about the halal market. They're specialists in all things halal, so if you do have any questions as we go along, please do use the chat box. The webinar is being recorded, so we'll also send out after we've finished as well. So I'm going to hand over to Mohammed. He's having a few technical issues with his camera, but he's got a presentation for us, so we'll be able to see his slides. So I'll hand over now.
Great, thanks, Mel. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining. I will quickly present my screen and run you through a little bit about what halal is and why it's interesting for exporters, especially exporters from the UK. So we'll get right into it. What is halal? Halal basically means permitted or lawful in Arabic and relates to what halal consumers and Muslims can eat, drink and use. There's often a misconception that halal just applies to food and drink, but for Muslims, halal is a way of life. And it relates to all aspects of what a Muslim consumer can eat, drink, but also use, do, activities, those kind of things. We'll get into some more nuances of this later on in the deck. But yeah, halal certification ensures we focus on halal food and drink, and this most of this deck will be focused on food and drink. That's what's relevant to this group. But yeah, halal certification ensures products are free from any prohibited ingredients, such as pork, alcohol, intoxicants, blood, etc. And that's what we do. We certify products to ensure that they conform to the halal standards and there are no haram or prohibited ingredients within that product. And we're seeing a trend in halal certification becoming more important for food and drink manufacturers as kind of the demand for halal is growing worldwide. Halal consumers are sort of increasing, and they're also becoming more aware of the types of food they're consuming, and there's a big sort of interest in consuming more packaged goods, and the UK is a really good producer and exporter of those types of products and goods. Halal requirements differ from those of vegetarian kosher. So often we get asked the question, like, if you've got vegetarian society approval already, does that mean halal is easy to do? And generally, yes, for things like vegetarian, there are some similarities. And because there are no animal products in the animal materials in the product, it's often easier to halal certify. But again, there are slightly different standards, and it would need a full halal review and certification to be sold as halal to those markets. So a little bit more about us. HCE was established in 1992, so going on 30 years. The whole ethos of our founders was that when they were looking for halal products in the UK, they found it really hard to understand what made up a product on the supermarket shelf because of the complexity of food and drink manufacturing meant that many products had multiple ingredients, especially some ingredients that might not be mentioned on the product ingredients label. Things like release agents or processing aids or lubricants or those kind of things that often they're not a specific ingredient, but may come in contact with the product through production, or there may be a processing aid that are used to filter ingredients out or filter solids out, which again are not a direct ingredient, but are coming in contact with the product. So this made it really hard to understand if a product conformed to the halal standards or if a haram or prohibited material was used in that production of that product. So on initial founding, HCE was all about providing halal product information to consumers. And we did this by contacting manufacturers to ask them, do your products contain any of these prohibited ingredients? And collating all of those products that conform to halal standards in a book. But quickly this became unsustainable because there's so many products out there and it's so difficult to be kept up to speed with everything happening. And especially as product sort of formulations change throughout the year, as supply chain sort of changes and different sort of new products being introduced, it became very difficult to maintain this going forwards. And we were seeing a demand from halal certification from manufacturers saying, actually, we want to certify products to show that consumers that this is okay for them to consume. So since then, our focus has been on halal certification, and that is sort of providing the service to manufacturers of food and drinks to sort of validate that their product conforms to halal standards, can be sold to halal consumers, and can display the halal logo on that product. And a big trend right now is the international recognition. We're seeing lots of governments embrace halal standards, especially in the Southeast Asia, in the Middle East, and all these governments are introducing their own halal standards, which require any foreign certification body to be approved by them and accredited by them to allow them to sell these goods to those markets. We'll talk a little bit more about this as well and explore some of those markets later on in this deck. So in terms of halal market, what does that actually mean? So the halal market kind of refers to the global Muslim population, and currently there are about 2 billion Muslims worldwide, which is about a quarter of the world's population. And these consumers are one of the fastest growing segments, and for them, halal is sort of a way of life, and it encompasses lots of different areas of daily life. A big part of that is Islamic finance, which is sort of a $3.5 trillion industry, which is huge. We're very close on its heels with halal food, which is about $1.5 trillion industry. Also included are things like modest fashion, media and recreation, halal travel, halal pharmaceuticals, and halal cosmetics. So again, there are lots of different aspects to halal. We'll focus mainly on the halal food because that's what's relevant to us and to yourselves, hopefully. But halal encompasses a range of different areas, not purely food and drink. The halal market is growing very quickly as well. It's predicted in the next 10 years to sort of nearly triple to $3 trillion, becoming sort of the same size as the Islamic finance market currently is, sort of a sort of annual growth rate of about 9%. And this is due to a range of different sort of factors. There's a growing middle class and urbanization in some of the key halal export regions. So places like Indonesia, Malaysia, Korea, as well as the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Africa, and also Europe. We're seeing increasing sort of middle class and increasing urbanization, especially in the Southeast Asian countries, where people have more disposable income. So this allows them to buy sort of higher quality food and good. They've got more disposable income as well, which allows them sort of to spend more money on these types of products as well. We're also seeing health conscious halal consumers. So as well as halal, for Muslims, it's quite important to eat things which are tayyib, which means healthy. So they're kind of combined in the religious text. Wherever you normally see halal, you also see tayyib, which means permitted, but also healthy and good for you. So we're seeing, we've seen it in the UK and other Western countries with sort of the health trend towards vegan and sort of organic products. But we're also seeing that in these export markets as well, where people are becoming more conscious of what they eat, and health conscious is a key factor for halal consumers. There's also a very strong UK brand recognition. These consumers understand that UK products are good quality because of the standards we have in place in terms of manufacturing, but also the type of products being made in the UK and exported are really high quality compared to some other countries. So there's a very strong understanding that UK products are really good, and there's big demand for sort of UK products made in the UK. And this is kind of borne out by the data as well. This was an article, I believe, published by Kerry Ingredients, And they looked at the data showing sort of new product launches, sort of new food and drink products being launched across the world. And they saw that products with halal or halal branded products increased by about 20% between 2018 and 2020, with the majority of these in Asia. Lots of companies are seeing the demand for halal and creating new products targeted for those markets. And there was a 2021 study conducted by MasterCard. It showed that Muslim consumers in Singapore have more trust of products and establishments which have a visible halal logo. And this is what we've seen by speaking to some of these sort of governments and countries as well, that people tend to buy more products when they can see a visible halal logo on that product, especially in these Southeast Asian countries, which are predominantly Muslim. And this kind of brings us back to HCE and international accreditation. We've seen over the past 10, 15 years, that there's increasing requirements from countries to have their own halal standards. And we are very proud to be accredited by majority of every government organization which has a halal standard. The big ones are sort of Indonesia and Malaysia. Malaysia has been at the forefront of halal standards. They've had the halal standards for some time now. And other countries are quickly following suit. We've seen countries like Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates and Gulf nations also introducing their own standards. Turkey is also introducing their own standards. So we're seeing this trend that each government, slightly annoying for us, each government has their own standard, which are slightly different. And what that means for us is basically they will come and audit our company. They will go on site audits with us to really understand how do we issue halal certification to our clients. And from that process, they'll review that. And then if they approve of our standards and if they adhere to their standards, they will grant us accreditation, which allows any products with our halal logo to be sold in these countries. And we are proud to be on the forefront of that, because we think it's really important for exporters to access these markets by having a valid halal certificate. And that's why our standards are really high in terms of being able to comply with all of these different countries and their different requirements. I'll pause very quickly there to see if anyone's got any questions so far. If not, I'll go on to the next few slides, which are more about the country profiles and give you a bit of an overview of some of the countries that might be relevant for you. Okay, I'll carry on. So these are some of the countries where we're seeing strong sort of export demand for UK products. I'll start off with Indonesia, which is the 4th largest population in the world. And the majority of this population are Muslim consumers. So about 230 million Muslims in 2020, making it the largest halal economy in the world. And they spend a lot of money. So 184 billion spent in 2020, which sort of makes up about 11% of the global halal economy. So they're a very strong economy. They have a very keen interest in halal products. And also it's kind of from the top down as well. So they've just introduced new legislation. So government regulation number 39 of 2021, which basically says that all products being imported into Indonesia need to be halal certified unless they're clearly labeled as not halal. And with a majority Muslim population, I think it's about 85 to 90%, that means the majority of products to be sold in the country need to be halal certified. Otherwise, the market share is very, very small. And so we've been accredited by the Indonesian government for a number of years. And again, as this sort of policy comes into place, I believe it's next year, they are also introducing new policies for pharmaceuticals and cosmetics in the coming years as well. So all food and drink products need to be certified within the year, but then other products will follow suit as well. And this seems to be a trend in other countries, as we'll see, but that's kind of the direction that the governments are going in. And there seems to be that sort of protectionist about ensuring that products are suitable for the consumers within that country. The next country I'm going to talk about is Malaysia. And again, Malaysia is a big export, sort of big importer of products from across the world, and with an increasingly affluent consumer and population, they are importing more and more foods. It's a key member of the ASEAN, Southeast Asian nations, and is sort of the second biggest export market for the UK after the USA. So it's a really big market. And again, in terms of Islamic consumer and halal consumers, it's pretty large. I think in the first quarter of 2022, Malaysia imported about just over 1 billion of processed food. And again, they have a big trend of increasing healthy food types over previous years. Malaysia's population is about 6% Muslim. So again, a large portion of the population are looking for halal products. And again, Malaysia is sort of a leader in the global Islamic economy indicator score. Again, this is sort of a ranking of halal and Islamic economies across the world. And they've been at the forefront of halal legislation for some time now. We've been accredited by them for a number of years, and they seem to be pushing the boundaries in terms of introducing new standards and making sure they are adhere to the halal sort of standards. The Malaysian government department, HCE, is responsible for overseeing the halal market in Malaysia. So only this organization can approve foreign halal certifiers, and they come and audit us as well as the other government accreditation companies. And so we're very proud to have that Malaysia stamp of approval for products being sold in Malaysia. Another key market is the UAE. So the UAE is part of the Gulf Cooperation Council, and with a sort of strategic location in the Middle East, with easy access to about 500 million people in sort of a 2-hour flight radius. It's a key export and re-export hub for the Middle East and Africa. The GCC itself relies heavily on imports of food and drink. I believe up to 90% of food and drink is imported because of the terrain, and not much is grown there. So a lot of their food is imported. And I think we exported 8 billion the UK to the UAE in 2021. So again, a fairly large market, and it seems to be growing year on year. As with the other countries, halal is overseen by the government, so the Ministry of Industry and Advanced Technology, which maintains a list of approved certifiers. And again, we are approved by them. So any products being sold to the UAE can be certified and used with our halal stamp. Saudi Arabia is another big market, and is a key sort of hub for the Islamic consumer and the Muslim person. It attracts about 10 million pilgrims a year. So again, there are lots of people going there. So it's not just about the people that live there throughout the year, but throughout the year they have lots of visitors and tourists visiting their cities, especially the holy sites. And it's one of the biggest sort of economies in the region, accounting for about 25% of the Arab world's GDP. And we've seen, as with other governments, they are kind of diversifying the economy away from oil dependency as part of their Vision 2030 framework. And one of those objectives is to establish a global centre for halal products. So similar to Turkey and the UAE and Indonesia, they have introduced halal standards through SFDA, which is the Saudi Food and Drug Authority. Again, HCE has been approved by them for a few years now, but we're seeing this as a trend for a lot of these Islamic countries and Muslim sort of majority countries, where government regulation for halal is becoming a standard, and any products to be sold as halal in the country have to be approved by an accredited halal certifier. And finally, we come to Europe. So again, this may not seem as like that big a sort of market, but there are more than 40 million Muslims residing in Europe, projected to reach about 60 million in 2030. In Europe, France seems to have the biggest population of Muslims, and we're seeing a trend, as in other countries, where the halal consumer is becoming more aware of products. They're really understanding what ingredients go into a product, and we're seeing that people are becoming more interested in kind of sort of pre-packaged goods as well. In France, the traditional community butchers, people are moving away from them towards more industrial produced goods, as well as supermarket products as well. And we're seeing a similar trend in Germany, the UK, and the Netherlands, where consumers are more aware of the products they're eating, more aware of the type of ingredients that go into them, and really understanding that manufacturing processes are complex. So it's quite hard to just look at the ingredients label and understand whether that product's suitable for you or not. So having that halal stamp of approval can be very beneficial to target these consumers. Not too many more slides, so I'll quickly recap kind of what we've discussed so far and talk more about halal certification, the process, and then we can move on to some questions. So yeah, to recap, we've seen an increase in sort of awareness of consumers across the globe in terms of what halal is, and they're more willing to purchase products which have a halal logo as it adheres to their faith and their religious obligations. We've historically seen a lack of products that adhere to these standards. So over the past 30 years, the number of products has been increasing, but it feels like we've reached a bit more of a tipping point over the past few years where this is exploding. And we're seeing, as with governments introducing legislation as well, that more and more consumers are seeking halal products, especially in these Southeast Asian countries and the Middle East. And we don't see that as a trend that's about to slow down anytime soon. The demand for halal products is increasing all the time. Modern manufacturing process is making it a challenge for halal consumers to know the status of products. So having that halal logo on a product empowers them to purchase that product with confidence. We've also discussed the kind of the government regulations coming into place, and that's where we kind of come in. So we've been working with these governments and organizations for a number of years. We have a good understanding of upcoming regulation, and our halal certificate is accepted in all these countries. So it ensures that the product has been thoroughly inspected and adheres to the Islamic laws, and it's suitable for consumption by halal consumers. So any products that are halal certified by HCE can use a halal logo and can target these consumers. In terms of the halal certification process, so we've tried to make it as easy as possible for companies to obtain halal certification. You can apply through our website. We have a page on there which runs through some details about your products, where they're manufactured, number of raw materials, any critical points, those kind of things. So following on from that, once you submit that, we'll review it and we'll get back to you with a quote for certification. If you're happy with that quote, we can go through the application review, which looks through the products, the list of products being certified, the raw materials, and we'll check all of those. We'll also do a site audit, so we'll come and visit the site, see how products are being made, really understand the process. and then I'll go to our decision committee, which is a combination of food technologists as well as Islamic scholars. We'll review all the application, they'll look at all the products and all the details we've collected, make sure it looks okay, and they'll issue a halal certificate. Generally, halal certificates are valid for 1 year, and they allow the use of the halal logo on the products. So it's a fairly straightforward process. It's designed to not be too intrusive and to make it as easy as possible to get halal certification. And again, feel free if you have any questions about the certification process, or just want to talk more about the products that you're currently producing and whether they might be suitable for halal certification. You can always contact us, send us an email, or give us a call, and we'll happily talk you through the process in more detail, and talk about your specific circumstances. And our website's a really good resource. So we've recently updated it. It has a lot more information on kind of our founding story, what halal is, some of the questions we often get asked. We're also working on some sort of new content blog posts around some of the current questions, and to inform our clients and sort of the wider food and drink manufacturing industry in the UK about upcoming regulation in the halal market. So hopefully that will be live very soon.
Thanks very much, Mohammed. That was really useful oversight of the halal market and how it seems to be growing globally. Just a question from me, it was sort of like the rough timescale of how long it would take to kind of get certified from the application process. Sure,
that it varies depending on the sort of number of products, number of sites, but generally it's about 4 to 6 weeks is what we aim for. So I say it's fairly quick, but again, it depends on your timeframes. But I think in terms of the work involved and the amount of things we need to do, that's what we're trying to aim for, 4 to 6 weeks. Yeah, that does seem more quick than I thought it would be. Yeah, has anybody else got any more chat? Any more questions?
Mel, could I ask a question? Yeah, thanks, Mohammed. Sandra here. Just wanted to clarify something around the various markets that you are recognised as being able to certify products. I guess a lot of our members will be looking at a lot of the ASEAN countries, particularly Indonesia, Singapore, Malaysia, with CPTPP coming in and all sorts of things. Can I just clarify, if you certify a product as halal, is it your logo that then goes on to the product and is accepted in each of those countries, or is there something different that has to happen labelling wise for each of the markets?
So it does depend on the market. For example, if we're talking about UAE, they have their own halal logo that they prefer everybody to use. So it's just one national mark for no matter where the products are coming from. For countries like Malaysia, they're happy with our logo, so they'll accept our logo on the product packaging, and Singapore as well is the same. So our logo is sufficient. But it does depend again on the companies. And for Indonesia, we're just waiting for confirmation when the new law is out next year on what they would prefer, but we don't have any definitive information on that as yet. We're still waiting. So we've discussed this with the head of BPJPH, and we're still just waiting on clarification on that.
Okay, so if somebody wanted to export to all 3 of those markets, does your one registration give you what you need to be able to certify them in each of those markets? They don't have to do it for each market.
No, and that's what we're aiming for as a whole, because we understand that the halal market around the world is so complex and a little bit diverse. So our aim, and a key aim for us, is one halal certificate that helps you to export to wherever you need to export to, so that we sort of take the work of understanding the different requirements so that you don't have to, so that it's as simple as possible for the manufacturers.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Just a question here from Sarah at Taylor's Harrogate saying, is it sufficient to have a QR code that you can will take you to the website with all the details of accreditations, or do you actually have to have the logo on the packet?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and I think it's a really innovative way of doing it. I think this question might refer to the Indonesia rule, if based on our previous discussion. So we are checking with Indonesia whether that's the case, but with Indonesia, we just need to wait until next year because there are a few things that are still changing in the law. So I can't give you a definitive answer yet until next year, when even we have a clearer picture from the Indonesian government as well. So we have posed similar questions to the Indonesian government themselves, but we're still waiting for a little bit more information on this in the next year.
And a couple of other questions asking if stickers would be sufficient, or do they need to be actually integrated onto the packaging?
Yeah, again, that would depend on different governments. So we can give you more information if you sort of email us, and we can give you information if you're looking at a particular market. But generally, it would be best to have the logo on the actual packaging itself. But if you're, for example, using a different sticker for a particular market, please do just send us an email and let us know which market in particular, and we'll let you know on that.
Okay, great. I don't know if you want to put your email addresses in the chat box before we sign off, and then anybody can contact you direct if they've got any questions. That's great, thanks very much. So like I said, we'll be sending the recording of the webinar round after today's session. Just wanted to say thank you for joining us for our webinar today, and also thank you to HCE for their valuable insights on the halal market. Also, just a little shameless plug for a couple of other FDA events that we've got coming up. We have another export operations webinar on the 18th of May on the evolution of Brexit, and that will be brought to you by Ashbury. So really looking at packaging and labelling, where we come from in terms of Brexit and what's new in legislation and where we're going to, basically. So do sign up on the website if you haven't already for that one. And also just a reminder that our booking system is now live for the 14th of June for our in-person FDA Summer Network Forum event, which looks to be a great event. It's great to be back in person, have all sorts of insights from people such as Amazon. We've got case studies from seasoned exporters, so it will be a great day. So please take a look on the website as well, and sign up if you haven't already. Thanks very much everyone for joining, and enjoy the rest of your Wednesday.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Mel.
Thank you.
Bye.